Good morning, Natalie. How are you today?
Oh, yeah. I'm all good. Excellent morning today.
It is an excellent morning. Now, you just got back from a trip just a few hours ago, pretty much. How did that go?
It was an amazing trip. I just came back from Baffin Island, from an inlet called Pond Inlet, where we were diving the icebergs. So we were basically camping on the ice and just enjoying what nature has to offer. So it's a phenomenal kind of diving. It's in fact one of my preferred one.
That's amazing. Camping on the ice, exploring an iceberg. How amazing is that? That's definitely not the average thing that you hear somebody say. Well, we went camping on the ice. We went to see an iceberg. It's May. It's just there, but there's definitely a specialness to the cold and to the Arctic, isn't there?
Yeah, it is. And you know what I really love about it is the fact that it's so ephemeral. You never know what you're going to see. You never know how the condition on the ice are going to be, how the weather, the forecast is going to be. In fact, we had two huge storms that didn't destroy the camp, but we were a little bit worried at some point. But the thing is that you are within nature and you truly understand how strong it is, the wind, the water, the ice. So you just that tiny element within it, and you just need to try to understand it in order to be able to see it with your own eyes. So it's something so special. It's hard work. It's cold, but it's so special.
But when you have the love for something like that, is it really work?
Hmm.
It is still
Yeah.
work, even with the love of it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's work. But I think, when you decide to do the kind of job or work or profession I have, sometimes people talk about retirement, and I'm like, I don't know what can that be for me, because when I'm gonna retire, I'm gonna do the same thing. So it's hard to define what work and pleasure be. It's the same at the same time, and for me, if one day I don't have pleasure anymore in what I'm doing, I'm going to do something else.
Absolutely. And so that's the secret, I think, is find something you love, do that, and you don't work.
Yes.
So, Natalie, how did you get started in diving?
Oh well, it's funny because I'm not such an old diver, and I'm, even if I'm French, I'm not one of those person who said when I was a kid I was watching Cousteau film, I always wanted to be a diver.
Mhm.
It's not my story. In fact, what made me do go into scuba diving is just two things. First of all, I don't like cold, or I used to not like cold, and I was like, well, I want to do some diving, some ice diving, and overcome that kind of limitation. So it's a little bit what started me in scuba diving, and overall, I was always curious. I'm the kind of person, even as a kid, who was curious to go and see beyond the line of horizon.
Mhm.
So either under the ground, under the water, it's like, okay, but what is past that thing? It's like when you're a kid and
Mhm.
there's a closed door and you can see a tiny light of a ray of light underneath the door, and you're like, maybe there's something interesting just on the other side of that door. So it's basically what drives me to go and start scuba diving and then exploring.
Wanted to see what's on the other side of the door. I love that. And that's really a lot of it is the exploration and the finding of new, interesting, and amazing things that other people can't see.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you go there, you see for yourself. But because I come from the film and the documentary industry, I started my career at the National Film Board of Canada.
Mhm.
And for me, it's like if I go to see for myself, well, that's fine. But I mean, there's no real value for me. So for me, it's really, I go there with a camera and then I can share those images. I can share those stories. And that's really what drives me, keeping doing it.
Right on. So Arctic exploration is definitely a different thing. And I think you're like me. You said, I don't like cold. And I'll be the first to admit, I do not like to be cold as well. And people ask us, wait a minute, you ice dive, you go to the Arctic. So tell me about that. I mean, you don't like cold, but you are into Arctic exploration. How did you start into Arctic and ice exploration?
Well, I started to do some ice diving just in Quebec because we have a good winter, and so I did my training. You know, like many other scuba divers. Like, well, you know, if you want to dive in the winter time, well, there's not so many options. So it was like, okay, so I'm going to do my ice diving training and see what it's like. I did it, and then my first trip in the Arctic was more for filming, nothing to do with diving. And then I kept going there to dive, to take people dive with me there. So when I go in the Arctic, it's either to film, to document, or to take people with me and accompany them, guide them to actually experience diving on an icebergs.
Wow, that is amazing. So this is definitely not an environment for the weak of heart, if you will. Can you share some challenging expeditions you've had and how you've overcome some of the obstacles?
Well, I mean, the challenge is because, first of all, we are in a remote community. So everything needs to come with the flights or cargo, and we need to have everything. So, like from the compressor, the tanks, and all the stuff. Or there's a boat, which a ship that goes there, like on sail. So everything needs to be planned and think ahead of time. Once we arrive on location, then we put all the equipment that is been tested on what we call a camutic, which is basically a huge sled towed by a skidoo. And then we travel for well, anywhere between, I would say, 30, 40 miles, like around 70 kilometers roughly. And then we put together a camp, and I'm working with an outfitter who has all the logistic, who's been working in the Arctic for more than 20 years now. So they knows everything about, you know, the environment. They have all the tents, all the logistic equipment. And we work really closely with the guides. What I mean by that are the guides are the local Inuit, who are, I mean, they are born on the ice. They know the ice. They know the condition. They live there. So we work with them, and then we decide, okay, this is a good place to put the camp. And a good place varies on what the ice conditions are this year. So we use a mix of technology, going from NASA Worldview images
Hmm.
to the local traditional knowledge of the ice, how to read the ice, the thickness of it, the color of it, the shape of it. And then with all those knowledge, the technology and the traditional knowledge, we can find, you know, a good spot to place the camp and to travel safely on the ice. Once we set up the camp, we sleep there for 1 week. Usually it's like 1 week of diving. So it took us maybe 1 week to set up the camp. That camp is also used for other people who just want to enjoy the Arctic, like sightseeing, narwhals, polar bears, belugas.
Hmm.
So we share that camp for both activities. And then on every single day, we go out and we try to find a place to dive. And when I say we try to find, it's like we were there like early May. So the shape of the ice, how the ice is all together, sometimes you don't have access to the iceberg because the iceberg is completely stuck in the ice. So sometimes we have to dig a hole, so which can be like within 4 to 5 foot on ice that we need to cut exactly the same way that you would do on a ice diving on a lake.
Okay.
And then once we open that hole, then we can dive. Depending on the condition, the ice can be already open, and then it's really easy. We just need to assess the situation, how safe the edge of the ice is. And because we are on the ocean, it's a bit different than on a lake. You know, how we measure the thickness of the ice, what is safe, because we have to deal with tides. So depending of the moment in the months, you know, due to the moon, how is the differential between low tide and high tide. So we try to find the best moment possible. So we're not going to do kind of a drift dive under an iceberg, which would be really, really bad. Because if you go with the flow, we and if we weren't on a rope, we just hope that there is some seal hole to get out. So we're always on a rope, safety first, and we try to find the best moment to do the dive. But sometimes, I mean, there are currents, and we just dive anyway, and we're just shorten the length of the rope just to be sure that it's going to be all good for all the divers.
That's awesome. So tell me about a challenge that you had, something that just where we all know that working on the ice and working in the cold, not everything always goes A, B, C like you'd like it to. When did something go sideways for you that it just didn't work out, and how did about that? So tell me about a challenge.
I mean, it can be a big challenge on equipment, of course, like free flow. Free flow, it's just the basic. Even if we have like top notch regulators, really well adjusted for the condition, it can happen because every moment you come out of the dive, the water temperatures goes down to, let's say, 29, 30 Fahrenheit, like -2 Celsius. When you go out, sometimes it's a bright sunny day, it feels warm, but sometimes like -10, -15. So it's really, really hard on the equipment. And on the first stage of your regulator, you have like sometimes 1 inch of ice just around it. So if you do one dive, you're all good. But on a second dive, it's already hard on the equipment. So everything from the inflator of the BC, we have to make sure there's no ice in it. Same thing for the dry suit, same thing for the first stage. So we are really, really careful about how we handle the equipment, so we are not going to have any free flow on the water. And at the same time, we're taking our compressor on the ice with us
Hmm.
in those conditions to fill the tanks in between the dives. So starting a compressor, a small engine in a warm temperate weather, it's a piece of cake. But sometimes in the cold, they quite don't like it. So we need a lot of power, hand power to start those compressors. This can be a challenge. And just to tell you, one of the challenge, unexpected one, but can happen, and it happened to us last week. We were just finishing the dive, having a hot soup at the end of the dive, and just packing up all the equipment. When suddenly our Inuit guides told us, "Look up, there's a bear." And a bear just turned around the corner of the iceberg and came close to us. So then we just stay quiet, stand up, and say "bear, bear, bear" just to tell him, we know you're there. Go away. And the Inuit guy just jumped on his skidoo, ready to go in front of the iceberg, just in case he was going to be more curious or aggressive. But then no, it was really quiet. It was a young male, 3 years old, looking for food, really, but no, nothing in his attitude showed us that he was going to be aggressive or too curious. When I say aggressive, it's not because he wants to attack us. It's
Hmm.
just because he needs something that he may think we have. So
Sure.
sometimes you look at the behavior of the polar bear. The paw may be extended in the front, the neck elongated, in the front. And if he's doing that, it's like, be cautious because maybe he's going to come closer. But in that situation, he didn't. And at some point just went away. And so this is one of the challenge because you can really be surprised by the wildlife around there. So even if you are so focused, so into your dive and everything, you always need to look around just in case something like this happen, and you are not surprised by the situation.
That is definitely something that I don't deal with, and challenges of the dive. I think of a lot of things of getting gear to across the ice to a specific location, keeping my divers safe, but I've never had to look around and say, "Oh, there's a polar bear." And for you, it's like another day at the office. "Oh, yeah, this morning we saw the polar bear that came around. We said, 'Bear, bear, bear,' and he went away."
Yeah.
Okay. Of all the challenges I have, I maybe I'll add that to my ice diving class of now in case you have a polar bear and you come out of the ice, say bear, bear, bear.
Yeah, you know
I'm gonna add that.
and
Yeah.
it's like with other animal, you need to make them think that you are bigger than them, so
Sure.
which can be a challenge sometimes. But most of the time they are just curious. They will not attack you. I mean, if they attack you, it's because you've been surprised. You have a lot of food. Like
Sure.
with any other bear. It's
Absolutely.
you need to be careful. You not to give them any temptation to go too close to you. But most of the time, it's all good. Just need to be careful how you're gonna behave. So
Absolutely. They don't have a mean bone in their body. They're not being mean. They're just doing what they're they're expected to do. They're looking for food, and you may have
yeah,
it. Not a problem.
yeah. Like like any human being or living thing on earth, it's like doing your day, looking for food, shelter, and this is the basics. So what do you expect?
Absolutely. And I think that's the misconception. When we talk about sharks or polar bears or other wildlife that we're going to encounter, people think, well, it's mean, it's scary. No, it's not mean, it's scary. It's doing what it's designed to do. It's looking for food and looking for the essentials, shelter, food, and warmth. Whatever it takes to make sure it stays alive. It's just doing what it's trained to do and what it's designed to do. So
Yeah.
now, Natalie, how has technology advanced in your field in exploration, and how has that changed what you do?
Um, depending of the diving, because I do Arctic diving, cave diving, all kind of exploration and filming. If I look back at when I starting the film, I remember it was on film, it was on digital,
Hmm.
so it was a huge game changer. It's amazing. Nowadays you can have amazing result with a small drone, smaller camera, bigger light. When I think of some of the lights we're using, is like 60,000 lumens. It's
Oh,
just insane. It's insane that we can carry that without having the wire to the surface and all that stuff. So the technology is just changing the game. Even with some of the small telephone, the iPhone or the other brand, whatever, all the software, the artificial intelligence. It's just amazing what we can do and how we'll be able to share what we're doing. So it's a huge game changer. It makes things easier in a way. Uh, it's more forgiving. So I think that's why there are so many now excellent photographer, underwater filmmaker, because the technology, in a sense, is way lighter, easier to use, and give us all those possibilities. At the same time, what I regret sometimes from back then, it's when we were filming on film, we took more time to think about how we were going to film, how we were going to plan. And I think the huge difference between a great amateur and a professional is that the professional still is planning a lot what is trying to achieve, what is trying to do. And I think with all the technologies, the more you use technologies, for example, like the rebreather, if you open water, it's like, okay, I'm just going to put my tank on my back, body check, and I go diving. And when I see the minimum psi I want to go out, I will go out. But the more complex technology you add, the more deeper you go or further you go, then you need to plan more and more. Like with rebreather, it's not just I'm gonna put it on my back and we'll see. Everything needs to be more think ahead of time with all the what if. And it's something that I believe any technical diver is keen on enjoying. Not just the diving, but the planning, the preparation, working with the teammates, and how we can better film or explore because of all that exchange of ideas and technologies. And we have amazing tools nowadays to do what we want to do.
that is for sure. It's definitely, and I agree with you that the difference between an amateur and a professional is the planning aspect of it. That the consideration to what am I actually trying to accomplish and what do I want to do. I do like the idea, though, that it has taken us to a different level. There's no longer
Mhm.
this mystique around what you do, Now all of a sudden everybody has a basic access and at least a decent understanding of what we do. So it takes us to that next level of, here's what the amateurs are doing and look what this person did. It's amazing. How can I build upon that with my professional expertise? It's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And then, at the end of the day, depending on what you're trying to film, I think there's really no secrets. Is the amount of time you're going to spend on location, underwater, in our situation, and it's where you're going to be able to see and to film behaviors. Like for polar bears. I mean, a picture of polar bears. It's nice, it's cute, but everyone who goes to those places can take a picture of polar bear. We all see pictures of polar bears. Now it's like how we can better understand those animals and their behavior. And you need to spend a lot of time, be lucky, and be ready. And what I mean by that is like know your tools perfectly. So when's going to be the moment to push that little red button, or they are not red anymore in most of the cases, but that little button, you're ready and everything's going to be in place. And I think I'm trying to find the word in English, but everything you have to put to get those images nowadays is just how you take your time and put it in what you're doing to be able to take that back those images.
Absolutely. So, Natalie, you do some pretty amazing things: cave diving, rebreathers, under icebergs in the Arctic. The thing about it is what a lot of us out here that don't do that, we think of these big scary things. So we realize that you're not fearless, that you manage fear and anxiety. So can you tell us how you manage your fear and anxiety while undertaking some of these amazing expeditions?
I do love my fears. And I always tell the people, love your fears. Because if you fear something, there might be two reasons. You have to understand why you fear something or someone or a situation. Is it a real fear, or is it a fear that someone, your parents, a past situation brought to you? If you identify, well, that's a real fear. Okay, so you are out of your comfort zone. Fair enough. What can you do to cope with that fear? One of the things I always tell to the people is like, on a daily basis, go out of your comfort zone. I hate the comfort zone. Don't misunderstand me. I love comfort, but I hate comfort zone because if I'm feel too good in my comfort zone, I may stay in it, and at some point, I will not want to go outside of it. But each time I expand my comfort zone a little and a little and a little, that zone is gonna be really, really big. So I try to do it really on a regular basis, and can be on every level, just to expand that comfort zone, to understand why I have some fear, and what how I can listen to that fear and answer to that fear. Okay, if I have a fear, for example, a couple of years ago, I did a 44 miles dives, to cross the island of Montreal from one end to the other one, to share awareness about the drinking water and the tap water. And I was like, well, you know what? I never dived for so long. It took me a total of 30 hours. And I was like, okay, um, when I started the project, I worked on that project, planned everything with a team of 25 people. And I was like, well, this is the day. And I was scared because I was like, this was my dream. I needed to do it, and so like now I have to jump. I have to jump in the water. I have to do it, and what is going to happen? I don't have a clue. So I was a little bit scared. There was like that, good energy and intensity, and at the same time I was scared. And I said, okay, why are you scared? And then I find all the little answer of why I was scared, and I answered to those fears. And I always like to keep a little bit of fear because I strongly believe that it's what is going to keep me alive. Because I will not be complacent about anything. Because I know that anything can happen to anyone at any moment. Unfortunately, there are so many great explorers who are not here anyway anymore to talk about it, because at some point they may have been a little bit too complacent, and I scared that it will happen to me. I don't want to die underwater. I just no. This is something that I don't want that to happen. So every time I go into a bigger project, an endeavor that I know is going to be huge, is going to be new. I always address those fears, reply to my best way to calm those fears, but still remind that I need to stay focused. I need to be really careful about every single element, details, and moment of the dives.
Wow. Love your fears. I love that. I'm stealing it if that's okay. Um,
Yeah.
answer to your fears and step into your comfort zone, uncomfort zone, or outside of your comfort zone daily. That is such amazing advice and so terrific. So it kind of goes hand in hand with our next question: is what specifically challenges have you faced as a woman in the diving industry?
Hmm. Um, the challenge as a woman in the diving industry may be the same challenge that I had to go through in the filming industry. And I am I am vertically challenged because I'm not that tall. So I love that expression. I'm vertically challenged. And so I think, most of the time, people, when they don't know me, they're like, no, you can't do it, in the sense that you will not be able to do it because you're small, you're this, you're that. And I'm like, it has been like that since I'm young. I always been one of the smallest, and you know what, I'm going to do it. Maybe I will fail, but I'm going to try. Maybe it will not be perfect, but I'm going to try. And I'm going to do it my way, find the best tools possible to do it. And if it doesn't work perfectly, well, I will try to improve. And sometimes there's some stuff I'm like, oh, well, no, I can't do it. But gee, I mean, in 2023, with all the technologies, if I'm not strong enough, well, I will find some tools. There's no way I cannot do something. I will maybe not be the best. And I mean, what does that mean anyway, to be the best? But I will do it. So I must say that in my life experience, whether in the film industry, in a diving industry, I had a share of both, people looking at me or saying comments like, oh, look, there's some gears walking by themselves, It's like, hey, yeah, there's someone underneath. Uh, and on the other side, some guys who told me like, well, you rock, you're doing it, and what can I do to give you a hand? And so I had both, so, and I think, in life there are so many bad reasons to discriminate because you're this or that, or you come from there, or you and I don't want to pay too much attention for that. So even the fact that I really try to empower women as much as I can, and to tell them like, you can do it, just for the sake of feeling good of doing it, because you want deep inside you to do it. So it's really important for me. But at the same time, when I'm with a team, I don't want to be considered differently because I'm small, because I am a woman. I'm a team member. End of the story.
I'm a team member in a story. I like that a lot as well. And that's how it should be. I'm here to play. Just this, I put on my pants the same way you did this morning. So let's go. Let's do our thing. You didn't do anything different than I did to get here. So
No.
I
Yeah.
love that. So we talked a little bit about mentoring in there, and I know that you're a part of some groups that do a little mentoring. Talk to us about how you approach mentoring other women in this industry.
There's different ways. So it can be on one by one. Just someone reaching out through the internet, blah blah blah. And but what I did a couple of years ago, I did it 2 years in a row. I was giving lectures and I was doing the premieres of my documentaries, and there was always some woman who came towards me and said, "Oh, I love what you're doing. I wish I could be like you, blah blah blah." And I was, "Oh, thanks." But I was kind of sad because I was like, I mean, maybe you will not do what I'm doing. And if you knew what it takes on a daily basis, maybe you don't want to do it. But that's another story. But I was like, how I could do something that the woman could have that spirit, that feeling like, hey, we did it today. So I did an event called Women Overboard. It was in 2015 and in 2016, which was kind of the world record of the biggest amount of women diving in the same place at the same time. So you count three, two, one, go, and then I had the second year 150 women going down in the water. It was just amazing because I had women with all kind of challenges. So we put a group of 10 women. Some women was doing those dives for women who had breast cancer. I had a family of 3 generation of women diving together, which was like just great. And for me to organize those events, and all the volunteer at the surface were men, because I didn't want to be like just all the women and started that debate, which was uh, useless. So all the volunteer at the surface were the brother, the father, the husbands of the women just giving a hand, but all the divers needed to be women, and it was so empowering. And I remember some woman saying, I wasn't able to go down in the blue. Well, it was in the green, in fact, because it was what's the name in English? Like not really a lake, but a lake built, because of the mining. What's the
For sure,
name?
like a quarry.
Quarries, thank you. So we did it in a quarry, so it was kind of a greenish water. And but some woman, she wasn't able to go down like to 70 feet just in a straight line because she was scared. But that day she did it because I think there was no competition. We had that feeling that everyone was there for the other ones. And it was just amazing. And I'm thinking of doing another edition of that dive. I just need a little bit of more time to organize it, but I believe next year I will do a third edition of it. And it was really, really nice, and it's what I like to just tell, and it's what I do through lectures as well. It's like, we have one life. We will be the only and single person who will be with us from the beginning to the end, no matter what, no matter where you come from, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you have in life. It's the same for everyone. So if you have one single dream, something that is that important for you, just try to do it. Just put your energy in doing it, no matter what it is, no matter how meaningful or meaningless it can be for others. But just do it. And how we can help each other, just having that spirit who gives you the energy just to do it, because it just feels good. And if you feel good, life is going to be so better. So it's really what I liked through those two events. And talking with others is like, how can we help each other and improve the real quality of life.
That is fantastic. Let us know how I can help you personally with your dive next year. We would love to do that, and be a part of that in some way, to assist, to advertise, to join. We'd love to dive with you, absolutely. But whatever we can do, we want to be a part of that, to help. So please let us
Thanks.
know. There is a women's diving month coming up for July, and here in Idaho, we're very excited that they're doing a women's dive at Redfish Lake, which is a very, very crystal clear high mountain, 6,500-foot elevation lake,
Wow.
110 feet of viz, very cold because it's a glacier lake. So we're very excited to announce on July 15th that they'll be doing that here in Idaho. But it's a women's dive. I was invited to go, but I don't know that I can make it, and I'm very sad about that. I had something come up. So, but yes, please keep us in the mile. So, Natalie, we all fail and experience setbacks in our career, no matter who we are. How did you bounce back from your failures?
um, there are some failures that can be really heartbroken. There are some failures that you have to digest. I'm thinking of when I did that traverse in Montreal. I wanted to do it in a single dive, which I ended doing in two dives. And the reason was a simple one. It didn't really depend upon me, but upon my team. So we were, because of the weather condition, the plant growing, the marine traffic, I couldn't cross the rapids before the night. And
Mhm.
my surface supervisor told me, you have to get out of the water. You can't continue. We cannot make sure that we're gonna be safe. We cannot assure the safety, not yours nor the one of the team. So you have two options: either it's end of the story and you will try it later next year, or you accept to get out of the water. For me, at that precise moment, it was a big fail, because I could keep going. The thing is that it was not about me, it was about the team. So it was really heartbroken. And when I get out of the water for the length of the night, I didn't sleep. I was thinking, like, what happened? What did I do wrong? So we are at that stage. And the next morning, uh, when the sunrise, the team was back there. I was really happy, because I said, you know what, that project is not about the sake of doing a single dive. It's about why I wanted to do it. And that project is not my personal project anymore. It's a team project. So even on a scuba diving experience, it's a fail, because I wanted to do really that length in a single dive. On a human experience, it was a huge success. So for me, when I fell on something, yeah, of course it hurts. And I mean, I'm French, so I'm going to react strongly, you know. I'm going to say, "Arr!" And then I'm like, okay, cool down. Let's think, like, why? Not why to find, excuses, but okay, in fact, it's not why, but how did that happen? What is the each step? How did they went one by one, so you are that situation? At which point there was a failure that lead to that big fail or small fail? And then I walk back and said, okay, we might change this for the next time. Or sometimes, like, you know what, I may have reached my limit. This is my limit. I cannot go further, and it is fine. There are some stuff in life that I will not do anymore, because it's like, what it might take. It doesn't. It's not valuable enough that I put myself in those situations. Maybe there's some stuff I'm just not good enough, or they are not just important enough, so I keep doing them. So I will say, this might not be for me now. Maybe I will go back to it if it's still appealing for me. And there's some stuff, it's like, you know what, I'm not the person for that kind of job, and that's okay, that's fine. I remember years ago I wanted to be a film director, feature film director with actors, and I did a couple, and I did a feature film, and I was like, you know what, this is not for me. I'm not the person who, I can handle all the techniques, but what was needed to manage the entire team, or big team, for a feature film, and all the little element, I was like, I'm not there in my life to do that. So I know the kind of things I want to do, and the kind of things that I'm not going to feel comfortable doing. So it's not just for me. And I think we need to be really honest. Um, it's not because it might look nice on your CV or in your car that, like for cave diving. There are some people, it's not because your body is doing his cave diving class that you have to do it. If it doesn't appeal to you, if you are not ready to face the risk, you don't have to. Nobody has to be a trimix diver because it's the next thing to do. Nobody has to be a rebreather diver because it's the next thing to you. Do you really want to do it, and why do you want to do it? And I think we really need to be honest about why we are doing some stuff, and especially when we're starting to get into the technical diving, because there are a lot of egos, there are a lot of pressure, there are a lot of pressure from the industry, from the equipment industry, from even the instructors sometimes, like,
Mhm.
okay, you just finished your certifications, like, which is the next one I can sell you? And I'm like, I'm not at ease with that. So, like, if you feel you're good enough, you really want to do it, you understand what it takes to do it in a safe way, and you are ready to commit, go for it. But if you're not ready to commit to the training, to um, questioning how you do things, to experience, and to want to go in those risky situations,
Mhm.
if you're not ready to commit to that, just don't do it. If you are doing it for the others, or because all of your friends did it, so you have to do it, it's not a good reason. Because the day something wrong is going to happen, and if it goes wrong to a point that you may not be there anymore, every single person around you are going to live with what happened and the consequences. It's never a good day when it's a close call, or worst case scenario when the person doesn't come back, or you say bye to the person going to the chamber, and next thing you hear is that it didn't make it. It's not a good feeling. I hate that feeling. I hate receiving those bad news. It's part of the life we're having, it's part of the risk we're taking, it's part of the game, and I accept it. um, but it's never a good day when it happens, and especially a more recreational dive, it's not fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's amazing, and I certainly appreciate your insight on that, Natalie. I'd like to pause here and pick this up in a part two, if you wouldn't mind, of
Mhm.
this interview.